In this video, we're going to show you how to use the Calculate sticky to calculate derivatives and also the Graphing sticky to graph derivatives. So let's open a Calculate sticky. So that's this first one here. And you can do it manually, obviously. So if you're given a function, students could manually, write out what they think the derivative is. But we're going to show you how to use the derivative template to either check your work or to help students discover how to find a derivative. So let's say you have a function and you're having students discover what a derivative is. So when you go into the template, so this is the math template that comes up when you're in the Calculate sticky, this tab number 2 has the derivative template. So we're going to put in x, we're trying to solve the derivative for x, and then now here's where they enter their function. So let's say you're trying to have them figure out what a derivative is. So let's just enter a function. So there is, oops, I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. So there is our function. So let's say this is the students, they have a function you're asking or you're trying to help them discover how to find the derivative. If you use the template, so you use the template, you're solving for x, the derivative, and entering the function that was given. When you hit execute down here on the soft template or just enter on your computer, it's going to give you the derivative. And if you do this several times, hopefully students start seeing a connection that the derivative is, if you take, where'd that 6 come from? Well, 3 times 2 is 6, and then we took this exponent and we reduced it by 1, and then 3 times 2 here is also 6. That's where this negative or minus 6 comes from. We reduce the exponent by 1, and then we multiply by 1, and our derivative is developed. So you could do that several times. You could have them enter using the template and find out what a derivative is. Or you can actually explore a little bit more. So let's say we have a function we're going to use several times or replace. So we can define a function. So defining just means we're going to use it more than once usually. So we're going to use the colon equals. And so now let's create another function. So negative x to the 4th. And so defining it simply says, okay, we're set. Now we can find the derivative of that function by using just its name, f of x. So again, let's go to our function template under math 2 and now get our derivative. And now we're going to put in this place f of x. So notice what happens when I type in the f. It's bold because that's signifying we've defined that function already. And now there's the derivative of this. So does what we talked about previously hold true? So that's one way to use the calculator to work with derivatives. You could calculate it using the template, or you could help students discover what the rule is for finding a derivative by doing several of them using that template. So different ways to do that. Now that we have the derivative, let's talk about graphing. So I could go over to graphs. We're going to do graph sticky. And since we already have this defined function here, I could do that. I could say let's graph f of x. So y equals f of x. And it's going to show me the graph here. Let's kind of pull it down so we can see it a little bit. Zoom in a little bit. There's my graph of f of x. And now I want to graph the derivative. I could do it a couple ways. I could graph and use my template again and do the same thing that I did previously. Put in my f of x that's already defined, and it's going to graph the derivative. So this is a really nice visual representation of the derivatives, very quickly and easily done with the templates, right? You could also just graph a function in general and then use the template to graph its derivative as well. And what I really like is if you change the function, so let's say we change this function to be something different. Let's go up to the original f of x and change some of it so that it's now a different function. Watch what happens. It changes not only the graph of the function, but all the derivatives in all the different places because everything is connected. So calculating and graphing derivatives is relatively easy on a Classpad.net Classpad.net. You can use the template. You can help students find that pattern and figure out the process themselves. You can use the template and really find it very quickly. If you're just looking for a very specific derivative, you could play around with what happens when we change the function and how does that impact the derivative, and then how does that impact the graphs. Lots of different ways that you can work with calculating and graphing derivatives.